And welcome. I'm Bill Newell from MSO News Sports. Phil Stacy and Matt Williams from the Salem News are here, and we've got our summer skeleton crew here with us here today. But not quite skeletons, but at least not you two. But anyways, gentlemen, welcome and happy summer.
Happy
Thank
summer.
you, Bill.
Yeah.
Can't believe August. My God, it's flying by, you know?
I know at the end of summer, days are getting shorter. We've got everything except those back-to-school commercials this year. Have you seen the back-to-school ads? I mean, I don't think we've really – I think companies are like Staples are a little worried about throwing those back-to-school ads out there, I think. But anyways, I haven't seen them, but they're probably out there for sure.
What's a commercial? I haven't been watching TV to watch commercials. There's no sports on. Everything else, you just fast forward. Ads. What?
There's no commercials on Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
But have you guys been
no.
watching? Have you guys watched any of the pro sports so far? Bruins, Red Sox, without fans.
Yeah, definitely. Been watching the Red Sox just about every night, and definitely been tuning into the playoff hockey, the exhibition hockey that they've had so far. No fans doesn't bother me. I actually was supposed to go to the Red Sox home opener last Friday, which was strange. You know, you get there, I actually wrote about that. Took me no time at all to get into town. Found a parking spot in the street like 3 minutes from the park. The moral of the story is I walk all the way down there and there's no credential for me. That's what happens when I leave it up to someone else to get it. If I do it myself, I know that things get taken care of, but should have known that. But yeah, so I didn't get to go in, but that was just as well.
Phil, I think it's pretty unfair beating up on Willie right here in front of us here on not getting that credential for you here.
Oh, no, I'm not allowed in the BBWAA. Come on, it's not me.
Yeah, no. When I deal with the Celtics or the Bruins, it's no problem at all. But I should have known better and dealt with the Red Sox myself. Lesson learned.
Yeah. Okay. Willie, how about you?
The no fans thing doesn't bother me. I mean, you know, I think if anything, the piped-in noise is kind of it's not really that, and the cardboard cutouts looks. I don't know. I don't want to say stupid, but it just looks unnatural, I guess is the way to say. But hey, whatever. Maybe it's better than an empty ballpark.
Willie, any thoughts from you? And no.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me much. I mean, I've the hockey I watched very briefly, and it looked like the international games. You know, you watch sometimes in the you watch the World Championships in the morning, and like there's no fans in there. So I've seen plenty of college hockey games on TV with nobody in the stands. I mean, so that felt pretty natural. The baseball last night was really the first game I watched an extended amount of time of, and it was pretty good. Matt Barnes out there falling apart on the mound. So I guess the reason that he usually falls apart isn't the pressure of the fans. We can say that at least. But hey, he got himself out of it. Nice win. I don't know. I don't mind the cutouts, the crowd noise. I know, there's been some discussion about the ethics or whatever. I mean, I don't think it's really unethical. I mean, because they're not trying to fool anybody, right? Everybody knows there's no one there. So, I mean, it'd be one thing if you're trying to pipe in chants that don't actually exist, like, the Falcons in Atlanta got in trouble for or whatever. But this is just for TV. I don't know. It's like a laugh track on Archie Bunker. It just doesn't bother me at all. It's, nice to have something to watch in the background and have something going on.
I will say it was funny that when Edwin Diaz of the Mets, walked, bases loaded, and then he hit who was it driving around Peraza last night?
I think it was, yeah.
And they had the crowd groan. I thought that was actually kind of funny.
Yeah,
pretty good. That's pretty good work. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, whoever is manning the buttons up there was definitely paying attention.
This could be a whole new career for people. We got to get a good button operator guy. The home field advantage if you have someone who's good at this stuff. Bill, you can run a soundboard. Maybe you can volunteer for Fenway.
Yeah, I've got some stories, but I can't share a couple of them with you there. You're right about that piece. Yeah, but there's I'm thinking though, if you're watching at home and you didn't have that fake crowd noise, I think it'd be even weirder. You know what I mean? Because I think they've
It
done a
probably would,
pretty
yeah.
good. I think they've done a pretty good job with it, and that's what the reviews are saying. And I can't disagree with it. It actually doesn't sound too bad. I mean, they don't put the "I Love Lucy" laugh track in. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like it's that, but whatever. So.
Maybe somebody makes an error. You play like the Seinfeld, ba-ding, ba-bam, bam, bam, or something.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Yeah, right.
But it does remind me of there's a Brian Regan, the comedian, did a bit years ago on golf. So apparently, this is a true story. One of the networks years ago, you're watching the Sunday afternoon golf. They're coming down the final round. It's somewhere in the South, but they're piping in these bird sounds. But these birds the calls that were going out over the air that you're watching at home weren't indigenous to the region of where the golf tournament was. So, so it's a pretty funny bit. Brian Regan, the comedian, do it golf, bird calls or whatever about the network's getting a call from somebody complaining about the fake bird noise, and it was true. They were piping in fake bird calls into the broadcast to make it sound better. Apparently, that's what golf viewers want, is at least some birds in the trees. Even if you can't see them, they want to hear them. So,
but somebody knows they're on plovers in Augusta or whatever.
yeah,
that kind of
exactly.
Thing, right? Okay.
I do. Somebody better check that. Those are not. Those birds are not indigenous to the Coral Gables. Yeah.
At the risk of being mean, that does sound like the kind of thing you would hear from the golf fans.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have some bird enthusiast, a birder listening, just happens to be a golfer as well, and man, the two worlds collide. Man. Hey, let's just jump to high school fall sports because we think we got a little sidetracked here. So we got word in our last broadcast last week that high school sports would not start practicing until September 14. In the meantime, we also got word from the Department of Ed that now the commissioner says schools could start a week or two later than they might normally, and not
2
lose
weeks
those.
late, yeah.
Yeah, not lose the days on the time on learning piece. So that gives schools a chance to plan and ramp up for the start of the 2021 school year. I would think if that were the case, then September 14th could also look a little bit, may need to be pushed back as well. And I just keep yapping here, but I've noticed that Connecticut has a start date, New Hampshire has a start date, and Maine has, tentative start dates as well for their high school sports. All pretty similar, I guess, or Connecticut will apparently. So, it looks like this is moving forward, but still we'll wait and see what really happens, when the rubber hits the road, probably in another 2 weeks here.
Seems that way. Like you said, I've been paying a lot of attention as to what's going on in the surrounding states, as I know a lot of people are, and certainly the state's Tournament Management Committee and MIA hierarchy are doing. I think those are all encouraging signs. Whether or not they affect what we do here in Massachusetts remains to be seen. But yeah, it's kind of a wait and see now. I think they're still trying to figure out. I mean, the state seems to be going towards more of a either hybrid or remote learning situation. So as we've talked about in the past, I don't know how that's going to affect practices, games, whatnot. I refresh my memory. Did we talk last week about the possibility of nothing until New Year's, and then you have, like, say, a winter season that runs January and February, a fall season that would run March and April, and a spring season that would run May and June. So everybody gets kind of a condensed schedule with the sports that they play. I'm guessing probably playing teams only. What did you retweet today, Willie? Something about within 10-mile radius of your school, or
Well, yeah, Connecticut, they're supposed to play only the 10 closest schools, which, I mean, that doesn't really work. So that should be fun. 10 closest schools to St. John's Prep or what? Essex Tech and Danvers High. I mean, good luck with that. So that's not going to be exact, I don't think, translation here to Massachusetts.
But I did hear that theory kicked out there. It's a possibility that in order to have all three sports, that's how they would do it. Now, I don't know. I mean, early March, and again, none of this is perfect, but early to mid-March is not always conducive to, let's say, playing field hockey or soccer or football outside. So we'd have to wait and see there. But hey, if we can get even a partial fall season, say there's 12 to 14 games instead of your usual 20 for some sports, or instead of 11 football games, you get 7 or 8. I mean, easy for me to say. I'm not the one playing, but I'd be cool with that.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
think for me, the whole model of the squash season, the 3 seasons in a row, I think it was either New Jersey that said they were considering that. It was, again, another state. And I know Massachusetts has been pretty hush-hush about what they're doing. They don't want it bandied about publicly. They want to present a united front. But I do, it concerns me a bit that everything we hear is a result of something another state did, right? I would like for our state, the people to be leaders, not followers. Just because Connecticut's playing, well, that means we can play. Just because New Jersey wants to do all 3 seasons after the new year, we can do that. I hope that behind the scenes, these people are coming up with their own ideas and not just kind of going by what they see going on in the other states. But again, I don't know that they're not doing that. They've just been keeping it very, very hush-hush because they don't want a lot of public debate about the plans. I think once they decide the plan, they want to have a united front, and everybody behind the plan, not, okay, this guy supports plan A, this guy supports plan B, a lot of debate type of thing. So, I mean, in some ways, these guys haven't had any leaks. They haven't been the Titanic, and that's a good thing. But for those of us that are waiting for this stuff and, analyzing the plans from the other states, it does make it look like they're following a little bit rather than leading. So, I don't know. But to get back to Phil's point, I think it's going to stink for football. But I think that we can play soccer. It just got moved. We can play field hockey, golf, whatever. I mean, if I'm a athlete in one of those sports, I'd rather play my regular season now than have some squashed season in the month of March. And, again, that really, really stinks for football because it doesn't seem like they're interested in allowing that, even if the neighboring states do. But if I'm a soccer player and I'm choosing between starting on September 20th and playing through Thanksgiving, right? Because you can play longer. Usually, if soccer starts late, they can play longer. Usually, soccer's over 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. So if they go all the way to Thanksgiving, you've just made up your 2 weeks. So, I mean, if I'm soccer, I'd rather do that than try to play, I don't know, between February 28th and April 1st or something in some kind of squashed in season. I mean, that's just my thought.
Yeah, the other thing too is, as far as football is concerned, let's say practice were to start on the 14th, which I think now it's going to be pushed back at least a week because of what we're hearing about the start of the schools, if that in fact happens. So you push that back a week, Phil, and it used to be high school football. This is many years ago, would start like the 3rd weekend of the year.
Yeah,
now
right.
it starts of September, rather, not the 3rd weekend of the year. That's the new plan, the 3rd weekend of the year. But now it starts like the 1st weekend of the year after Labor Day.
Yeah.
It starts the weekend after Labor Day. So now you've clearly lost 3 games, and I'm going to guess 4. You've lost all of September for games, let's say, because you just can't start a season, like football. Let's say you did 1 week of practice, and that's like 2-hour practices, 3-hour practices. They might make an adjustment the first week of that. I get that, but still, now you've lost 3 games, and that's fine. I'd be fine with that too. If you could start a season, let's say first weekend of October, it's a shortened season, and you're back on track. But then again, the other problem you have is that schools are district by district, and you don't know what these schools are going to do and what their individual policies are going to be. For example, we're going to learn more in the next week. I think Beverly had a meeting earlier this week, their school committee. Parents want to go back to school. The school committee's a little unsure about that piece, and they'll vote on it next week, though, this coming week, apparently, on what they're going to do. So the plans are there. The question is whether districts are going to pull the trigger on it,
Right. And as you said, we're probably, if we see any football, it's probably not going to be until that first weekend of October. So it makes you wonder, do they just play through the Thanksgiving and don't worry about playoffs? I don't know.
Yeah.
is that the pill you have to swallow? Like, okay, we can play, but it's only going to be a 7 or 8 game season, and you finish, whether you finish 8-0 or 2-6 or whatever. That's just how you finish. I'm sure that the football folks are trying to think of all kinds of ideas to make this work safely. Whether it's full face shields, which I even have, some hockey guys tell me about. They're already trying to kick around ideas for the winter.
Yeah.
Of course, that's an outdoor sport. Football and hockey would be indoors, but whether the players have to be masked and a shield with their helmets. Everyone has to be wearing gloves. The huddles have to be, everybody has to be 3 feet away from each other in a huddle, that kind of thing. I'm sure there would be even if there were football, I don't think it would be as we are used to seeing it at the high school level. I don't even know how they're going to pull it off at the NFL level myself, but,
Well, it doesn't.
go ahead.
Well, I just think for the pros, once you test a guy, who cares? I mean, if I pass my test, I can be in the huddle. I can't give it to a guy if I pass my test, right? The hurdle for high school is they're not going to be able to test everybody. They're going to go by, the temperature checks probably and things like that.
Well, with those face shields, Phil, I'm thinking the only sport that really is not going to be impacted is the interscholastic welding. Those guys have been, social distancing for years,
or fencing.
Yeah. Fencing, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we brought this up before too, but how are people going to feel if sports return, but there are no spectators allowed?
Yeah.
I think people are likely to say, okay, yeah, well, it's a price we have to pay, but it's a lot different when it's game night and you can't go watch Johnny Touchdown play. A lot of factors here.
Probably looking at Columbus Day, best case scenario for football.
Is that still a holiday?
Whoa, Columbus Day. Whoa.
Well, with October, geez, it used to be the start of the World Series week, but that might be different this year. I don't know what the, what the marker is in these tough times we live in. But I think best case scenario, that's what you're looking at. But if Connecticut's going to start on August 17th, Massachusetts can't even start practice. So in other words, you could have a month of data of it being safe in a neighboring state before you're even set to start. And I do think that if it is safe, that could allay a lot of fears. That's a whole month.
Yeah.
And, I am already hearing from the basketball and hockey people some restlessness because of the travel. People are going to Connecticut and New Hampshire to play those games, and they don't understand why they can't play here. So I think that if the neighboring states are underway and it is proven to be safe, which we all hope it is, for safety's sake, not just for sports sake, that there is going to be a current of restlessness. Like, hey, imagine if you live up in Haverhill or something, one of these border towns, it's like you just walk across the border and it just doesn't make sense. If you live near it's like driving to the liquor store to get your tax-free, deposit-free beer up there. It's just kind of, I don't know. I think if we see it safe elsewhere, it's going to really create an undercurrent of restless people.
Another thing that we have to factor in for some of these teams, certainly football, maybe some of the bigger cross-country programs, is transportation.
Yeah.
You can't pack 50 kids onto a bus and say, we're in Salem, let's go over to, Gloucester for a game. That's probably going to require now 3 buses to bring the same number of kids. So if you have a big cross-country program, are you looking at like 7 or 8 buses to bring, 120 kids to a meet? So I think schools are really reticent to have kids drive themselves to games for liability issues and things like that. So those are other things that need to be figured out, things that we might not necessarily think of, but I think athletic directors and school administrators need to think of.
Yeah. Well, there's clearly a lot of thinking going on, I'm sure, and
I mean, we may end up seeing if there's competition. In other words, you may see a lot of weekend competition because it would free up the buses. If there's extra bus routes to take kids home from school at 2:00, then that same bus can't take a kid to a field hockey game. So if the districts can afford it, you may see more games on Saturdays because that's when the buses might be available.
But I wonder if that means like time and a half or double time for the bus drivers. I don't know, obviously, what those contracts are like, but
Well, it doesn't for us. It doesn't for us. So
no, no.
that's for
Long
sure.
ago it used to.
On a Sunday, not on a Saturday.
No, but you do wonder, and would some of the Catholic schools be reticent to play on, say, a Sunday? I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I think certainly interesting.
And if I remember right, I know some years sports are affected by a couple of the Jewish holidays that happen in either September or early October. And I believed when I took an early look at the fall schedule that those both fall into account this year during like weekdays, so that games would not be played, after sundown the next day. That kind of.
Yeah, I think there's definitely one in early September, first week or second week of September that we don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, it might be
for scheduling. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's impacted some teams, and they've played on a Thursday or whatever, different times, and which is kind of neat to have those off days.
Yeah.
I kind of would like that, to have an alternative schedule, for high schools to. They got the pro Thursday night games. Why not do a high school Thursday night game or something like that in the end? I think it'd be a neat thing to do, if you could pull it off, kind of the game of the week kind of a thing you don't have to be league by league, and it's not going to be in 2020 either. That's for sure.
No.
I guess one plus is we've seen so many beautiful new stadiums prop up in the last 5 to 10 years. So, the ability to have night games maybe will help with the busing issues too, because you allow them to take all the kids home, and then and then there's time to get to the game at night maybe. So maybe that's a plus, all these nice stadiums that have been built up lately. Swampscott and, Danvers has always had lights, but, there's a whole bunch of the prep adding the lights there. So.
All right. So as we talk here, the 1st of August, I'm just curious, if you guys had to put a percentage, say like 0 to 100, on whether we're going to see fall sports, what would you rank it at?
Wow. I would say, if you want me to go first, I'm going to say 25%.
Okay. Willie?
I mean, what kind? Like just one game, just some game happens someplace, and it's not like the spring.
Yeah, I mean a season, like it, whatever your definition of that would be.
I mean, 80, 85, I don't think there's any appetite in the State House for having a wipeout like it was in the spring. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't know that it's going to be a season. 10 games, I don't know. It might be less than 10 games, but I would say that, it might not be every single sport, but I would say 80, 85, that there's at least one varsity competition, even if it's a single golf match.
Two opposite ends of the spectrum there.
Yeah. Well, I kind of approached it a little bit differently, but I mean, I hear I'm not totally disagreeing with what he's saying. I mean, if they may decide that they can do a sport like golf, I get that, but they did do a study or a classification of the different sports with the high contact, so to speak. I don't have that in front of me, but I know football was one of those sports that was allegedly the most dangerous for the virus, so to speak, because you're close and so on or whatever. So
I think it was just football and cheering, varsity cheering.
Yeah, it was something weird like that. Yeah.
Well, I think because of the contact and the pyramids and handsprings or whatever, that kind of stuff.
But Phil, if the three of us got together to do a cheer, we could social distance, I think. Don't you? I mean,
yeah. But then, you and I would have to be down. Willie
we'd both have to be at the bottom. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I'm afraid of heights. I'm not doing any of the tumbling. You guys are on your own.
But you'd only be one up on us. So that, I mean, you could do that, Willie. You're young. You could tumble off of Phil or myself. Yeah, there you go.
It's
I
not
guess
the
I would.
landing. That's what's scary. I don't want to,
Oh,
thinking
Phil,
of,
your percentage?
I would say, I don't know if quite in the middle of you two guys, but maybe like 40%, let's say.
Mhm.
I mean, I certainly hope that we have something. I've said this for several weeks now on the podcast. I'll take something over nothing. I would hate to have the whole thing just, wiped out. I think that would be crazy
You know,
and unfortunate.
the only other thing I'm looking at, I read the article quickly in the Friday Salem News by Paul Layton on the Beverly School Committee meeting. And I got the sense, I mean, I may have read it I read it very quickly, but they're treating elementary schools different than middle and high schools. And unfortunately, the middle and high school, and I get that. Okay. I'm okay. I understand that. I think that makes sense, but they're treating them differently. And so that means that, again, if you're a high school student and you're only going every other day, I'm sorry. I mean, I don't know how that plays for high school sports practices after school and competitions and so on,
I'm told that under the hybrid model, they do think sports will be allowed. That is one of the leaks that's come out. I don't know what that looks like. I mean, you guys are right. It's a little strange, but I mean, I guess I would make it analogous to like Masco when they have their senior internships, right? Like a lot of Masco seniors don't go to class. They don't enter the building in February, March, April, May. They still show up for practice. So I guess, Beverly, same thing. They've implemented some internships. So I guess if it works for that, it could work for this. I do think it's a hurdle, but I'm told that at the state level that they do think that as long as it's hybrid, there could be sports. Now, if it's full remote, I think that might be a little different, but we'll see.
Yeah. No, I get that. Yeah. I think you're right. And I think in this situation, you want Massachusetts to lead, Willie. Well, you'd want to, there's no reason you can't create it and do exactly what you just said. That could happen. That's for sure. Yeah. I hear you.
And you know what? Unprecedented times call for unprecedented measures. And if that means you only go to school, in-person school 2 or 3 days a week, I don't see why you shouldn't be able to practice every day. Again, under extreme circumstances.
The other thing that I hang out there, we've got like 2 or 3 minutes left here, is that think about big time college football. We kind of brought this up a couple of times, but we noticed that some leagues have already canceled. Some of the D3 leagues have canceled, Ivy League, no sports, so on for the rest of 2020. But big time college football, pretty silent, I think, and I'm just wondering how that plays out for them, because that's huge. It's revenue. It's, all different schools with all different kind of learning situations at the college level. And I don't know how that's all playing out there. That's all just coming together for schools as well. Underclassmen with one set of rules, upperclassmen with different set of rules as far as being on campus. So, who knows how big time college football plays out. And all that does kind of, I think, have a ripple effect down to the high school level at some point, so.
Potentially, yeah.
So, all right, man, anything else, Phil, you want to share with us? Any words of wisdom, Willie?
No. Like I said, our buddy Richie Slate's getting married tonight. So good luck to him and his bride, Stephanie. And let's hope August is a better month moving forward for all of us than we've had the last 5 or so.
Oh my gosh, yes, huh?
Yeah,
Willie?
Well, hey, baseball, we've had the local baseball, and I've seen here in Peabody, they're going to broadcast the Little League live on TV, for those grandparents that don't want to go sit in the outfield, or, it's too hot for them, or virus or whatever. So that's kind of cool. Like, these kids are going to get a chance to see themselves on TV. Usually you don't see that until the Little League World Series. And, the Essex County Legion ball rolls along. It's been fun. And, Mr. Lou Cogger was at the game the other day. Can't keep him away. No virus is going to keep Sweet Lou from his Legion baseball team. So that was nice to see.
All right, man, we've done it. Another week in the books. Gentlemen, thank you.